In your interview with AT&T, they're going to ask you behavioral interview questions. And these are some of the most challenging types of interview questions you can get as a candidate. The good news is today, I'm going to give you some of the actual behavioral interview questions they're going to ask you, and I'm going to teach you from a recruiter's perspective exactly what you need to say in order to answer these questions correctly. Now, if this is the first video you're seeing, just know that this is video 2 in a 4-part series. So good news, there are more videos to help you be prepared to nail your interview with AT&T. All right, with that being said, let's get started. Okay, so first things first, what is a behavioral interview question? A behavioral interview question is an interview question that basically prompts you to tell the interviewer about a specific story that happened in your background and walk them through how you handled it. Interviewers ask these questions because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So it is really hard to prepare for these interview questions, and you tend to get a more authentic answer. Now, how do you know you're being asked a behavioral interview question? Well, it'll have the words, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of a time when, or tell me about a story of a time when. Time when is really what you're looking for here, because it's essentially asking you to look backwards, figure out an example, and talk them through a time when something specific happened. Now, when you are asked one of these questions, you want to use the STAR method. And the STAR method is basically a system that allows you to answer a behavioral interview question and walk them through a very specific order of events, not missing anything, and it's how you answer these questions. Now, the STAR technique or the STAR method is an acronym. It stands for situation, task, action, and result. What was the situation you were in? That's like where you were working, what your role was. Task. What was happening? What was the task you needed completed? What was the situation? Action. What did you specifically do in response to the stimuli? Whatever was happening, what did you do? And the result. What was the outcome here? What happened after you did whatever action it was you took? When it makes sense, sometimes I like to throw an L on the end for lesson. Was there anything that you learned in this situation that's applicable to you in the future? So if that happens, you can choose to throw that onto the end. Now, from a timing perspective, this should take you no more than 60 to 120 seconds. It's really important, just in interviewing in general, that you never want to spend too much time answering any single question. If you're answering a question that takes you 3, 4, 5 minutes, that is way too long. It's going to adversely impact you as a candidate. All right, with that being said, let's get into the actual interview questions and how you can answer them. Now, this first question is, tell me about a time that you helped a coworker accomplish an important goal. This is a great interview question, and it's a question that matters to AT&T because they care about teamwork. They want to get an idea of what type of team player you are. You know, you had to help a teammate accomplish an important goal. So there's a few things that I think are really important here. Ideally, this is something that is outside of your standard job description, right? It's not your job to be helping this person, but they were doing a task and you offered to help them, which is outside of the scope of what is expected for you, right? Like if you can do that, that's going to make this example stronger. When you're telling the story, you have to tell it with enthusiasm. Because part of what they're looking for here is, do you like being a team player? Are you a good teammate? Are you someone who relishes the opportunity to actually help their teammates? The perfect answer to this would involve you going above and beyond to help a teammate and you being happy to do so because that's the type of team player you are. And then ultimately, you know, it should be something that ended well. Like you helping them made it so that whatever it is that you were working on ended up better than if you hadn't intervened. You also want to use the STAR method, situation, task, action, result. If you can do those things, it's going to be great. I can't tell you exactly what to say because this has to be something from your past. But if you accomplish those things, you're going to do great. Now you're going to nail this interview. And because you're going to nail this interview, I'm assuming you're going to want the best salary possible. Getting a great offer can make a huge impact over the course of your career because every single offer compounds on the one that preceded it. And if you want to get the best offer, make the most money, I want you to go down to the description box. Below, you will see my full salary negotiation guide. For less than $10, you could make over $10,000 more on your next offer. Trust me, I've been in recruitment for 15 years and doing the right things can help you make so much more money in that offer. The next question is, tell me about a time you went above and beyond for a customer. This is probably the most or one of the most classic customer facing behavioral interview questions. And there's a few keys here. One, you have to make sure whatever you do is above and beyond. It can't just be your job. If my job is a recruiter and I said I went above and beyond because I had a tough role and I filled it, while good, that's not above and beyond. So it has to be something that falls outside of your job description. You also have to answer again with enthusiasm. You were willing to do this because it matters to you that you solve whatever problem was happening for the customer. Ideally, they also end really satisfied, right? A good example of this is the customer is unhappy for something outside of your control. Like you didn't cause it, they're just unhappy with something. You get involved and you go above and beyond, do something outside of the scope of your job to really make their experience phenomenal. Because of this, they achieve a satisfactory outcome and are thrilled with the effort you gave. And you were happy to do so because you care about helping the customer. That is what you were trying to achieve. When you answer this question, you want the person interviewing you to end believing that. So make sure that you find a story in your past that allows you to convey all of that. Use the STAR method, you'll do great. This next question is, tell me about a time you made a mistake. What did you learn? This is one of those questions where you need to be vulnerable in the interview process. You need to actually talk about something where you made an error, you made a mistake. There are several ways in which people fail this interview question. It is an easy one to fail. One, you need to have an example, okay? You can't be like, I've never made a mistake. Liar. That doesn't happen. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I made a mistake today. So it's important that you actually share a mistake. It can't be one of those things where like, well, I just worked too hard and because of that, blank. Like it should be a legitimate mistake that you've made. It's also important that it can't be one that would put you as a really unhireable candidate, right? Like it can't be like, well, one time I burnt down the office building I was in. No one's going to hire an arsonist, okay? If you're an arsonist, I don't know what to say. Like that's not going to work for this. It needs to be an authentic mistake, like an actual mistake, but not one that is so significant that they would be off-put by hiring you. One of the keys to doing this is using the first 50% rule. And this rule basically states that whenever you're asked to talk about a mistake you've made in your career, use one for the first 50% of your career. So if your career has been 10 years long, use an example from the first 5 years. That way you put some distance between the mistake and current state. It's also really important, and they prompt you to do this, to talk about what you learned here. This is a great opportunity to be authentic. Hiring managers actually really like it when you talk about a legitimate mistake you made, what you learned from it, and how you have changed moving forward to ensure you never make that mistake again. Because it's okay to lose as long as you don't lose the lesson. As long as you make a mistake and you're better off for it, it is actually really powerful to share an authentic mistake that you made. Now, the next thing you need to know how to do is you need to answer the question, why do you want to work here? I always say it's the most important interview question you are going to get asked in the process because hiring managers look at this and it is often the tiebreaker between two equally qualified candidates. In fact, it is so important, I made its own video. It is video 3 in the series. Trust me, you're going to want to watch that. So I'm done here. I'll see you over there.